My name is Dr. Adela Gadimi, and I'm the Executive Director of United Faculty of Florida. Today, you'll be hearing from faculty, graduate assistants, parents, students, and national voices that are all here because we care about the future of higher education in the state of Florida. I'll be introducing each of the speakers to you, and if any members of the press would like to follow up with one of our illustrious speakers, please contact us directly at uffpress@floridaea.org so we can share contact information with you. First, it is my pleasure to introduce our UFF statewide president, Dr. Theresa M. Hodge, Associate Professor of Mathematics from Broward College, who will now provide opening remarks. President Hodge, please take it away.
Thank you, Adela. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Theresa M. Hodge, President of the United Faculty of Florida. Let me begin by acknowledging the dedication of each of you here, students, parents, educators, and concerned citizens, to the value of education and the power it has to positively shape our communities and the future of our state. We are here today because higher education in Florida is under a serious threat. It has been under attack for some time now, but this week, the Board of Governors is set to enact a sweeping series of cuts to the curricula of our universities. Senate Bill 266, which was signed into law in 2023, gives the Board of Governors the authority to remove courses from the general education curriculum that, quote, distort significant historical events, teach identity politics, or that assert systemic racism, sexism, oppression, and privilege are inherent in the institutions of the United States and were created to maintain social, political, and economic inequities. In other words, the truth of America's history. So today, we are speaking out against Senate Bill 266 and all of the governor's efforts to diminish the quality of higher education in Florida in order to feed his personal political ambition. The courses being considered for removal are many, and the impacts, including those that are unintended, could be far-reaching. To the Board of Governors, these courses are words and numbers on a spreadsheet, but for the rest of us, they are the future of our students, our jobs, and our democracy. General education courses are the foundation of critical thinking and informed citizenship, and censoring them limits not only what students can learn, but also what they can become. These proposed cuts are an insult to our students and to the world-class faculty who instruct and guide them. Essentially, the Board of Governors is saying, we don't trust you to think for yourself. Or perhaps, and more likely, that is exactly what they are afraid of. An educated and free-thinking citizenry is an antidote to authoritarian overreach and fascist tendencies. If the recent election has taught us anything, it is that we need more critical thinking, more debate, and more ideas and viewpoints to analyze and consider. We need graduates who understand our true and shared history, the way our current society operates, the good and the bad, and how precious and fragile democracy is. These proposed changes that gut the general education curricula will have the opposite effect. On a more practical level, the actions of the Board of Governors could leave our students ill-prepared for the job market or graduate school in other states. By reducing the number of available general education courses, these cuts could produce a bottleneck effect, limiting the number of available seats each semester and delaying students from finishing their degrees in a timely manner. An extra financial burden would be placed on our students and their families, and the economic ripple effects are frightening. So it's clear, our governor, our legislature, and our university system's Board of Governors do not truly have the best interest of our students, our communities, or of our state in mind. This happens when power becomes concentrated and detached from reality. But we have a check and balance right here today, our collective voices. So today, you're going to hear from a diverse group of people who are both directly affected and deeply concerned about what is happening. They will share their stories, their concerns, and the hardships they're already facing. This is a moment for us to come together, share, encourage one another, and resolve to fight. I thank you.
Thank you so much, President Hodge. It is my pleasure to next introduce to you Leah Salceda, a first-generation college student pursuing a dual degree in History and International Affairs at Florida State University.
Good morning. My name is Leah Salceda, and I'm a student at FSU majoring in History and International Affairs. I appreciate the opportunity to add my voice to the others here today, speaking out on such a serious matter. General education courses have the power to change lives. I didn't come to FSU intending to major in history. I began solely as an international affairs student. However, my first semester, I took a Latin American history course that entirely transformed my academic trajectory. Learning about history and its production teaches you that telling your own story is a privilege not afforded to all. My classes helped me realize that the study of history isn't about the past, as contradictory as that sounds, but rather it is a tool to understand how the past is inextricably linked to the present and all possible futures. History helps us understand the world and our place in it. It is heartbreaking to think that the same transformative opportunity I had could be taken away from future students because the Board of Governors would rather us ignore history than learn from it. In my studies, I was exposed to the writings of Walter Benjamin, who stated, "The only writer of history with the gift of setting alight the sparks of hope in the past is the one who is convinced of this, that not even the dead will be safe from the enemy if he is victorious, and this enemy has not ceased to be victorious." This is a struggle about academic freedom, freedom for schools to offer a wide range of courses, and freedom for students to feed their intellectual curiosity and find their paths. A chemistry student should have the chance and be encouraged to take a course like Third World Cinema, and perhaps find inspiration similar to that which I found when taking Latin American history. General education courses aren't a checklist for degrees. They're a chance to become a more informed, well-rounded person. When you take that away from students, you aren't just limiting their options, you are limiting their possibilities. I've seen firsthand how the legislature's attacks are already negatively impacting my education. Professors are afraid to speak freely. I've observed them stop mid-sentence and censor themselves, I assume, due to a fear of losing their jobs. This is alarming. It is unfair to my brilliant and hardworking professors whose knowledge is undermined by these limitations. It is unfair to myself and my fellow peers who came here to learn. What exactly are we learning when truth and reason can't be spoken out loud? The resounding lesson is obedience to authority, and in my opinion, that is not what university is for. Florida has been my home for a decade. I don't want to leave, but I am deeply concerned about its future. These changes harm all Floridians, not just students and professors. We are a state that boasts of incredible diversity, composed of natives, immigrants, and above all, people in constant pursuit of better lives. The American dream also includes the dream to learn, to grow intellectually, to understand the systems that govern us and learn how they can be improved. Florida cannot be a place we abandon and hope someone else will fix. We have to stay and fight for the right to learn freely, to grow freely, and to thrive. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this fight.
Thank you so much, Leah. Next, you'll be hearing from Cabria Brown, a student artist and video game designer from Florida Atlantic University.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak on a topic that truly affects all of us. It starts with us having Florida as dominant rich cultures, Jamaican, Haitian, like myself. Many of us are immigrants or children of immigrants, and we represent this beautiful diversity within this state. Yet the hypocrisy of erasing these histories and banning discussions about race, equity, and inclusion is staggering. How can we claim to embrace the richness of Florida while silencing the voices that make up its own population? This issue isn't abstract. It directly affects us. students, faculty, educators, communities all across Florida. By limiting what we learn about the world and each other, lawmakers are refusing to listen to the same people that they claim to serve, while they're ignoring the lived experiences of the people that make this state. The ones living the histories that we learn, diminish stories of Black excellence, Black resilience, Indigenous land rights, queer liberation, and even darker past of history that America doesn't like to shine so much light on. But universities like mine are filled with leaders that will one day run this country. And I had the privilege to think critically, analyze popular culture, and reference how social media, for example, plays a huge role in our society. Thankfully, for one of my classes, Cultural Study of Globality, I've been able to not feel like an other for speaking out about my own opinions and my own experiences as an Afro-Caribbean woman. I never would have thought that talking about these complexities of my identity would be able to make connections of African diaspora, in turn, help me understand my own Blackness. And being able to talk about things like ableism, environmentalism, homelessness, and these are things that affect Florida right now. So this knowledge is a gift. And we were able to have these discussions and with this, find solutions and not just be able to talk about things without having any direction. Higher education is a gift, and I'm so grateful for the things that I have to learn and for the people that will be able to learn this. But this is something that's being taken away. I want to be able to highlight the diversity of Florida because it deserves to be celebrated, not ignored. We should be using our classroom to highlight these rich stories and be able to call this state home. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Cabria. Now you will hear from Marcel Gray, a PhD student and NIH fellow in medical sciences and a Tampa resident of 14 years.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. In my experience as a scientist, we have thankfully not lost many natural science gen ed courses to this legislation. What we have lost, however, is the freedom of educators to discuss as part of their curriculum not only the latest research in a deep and unbiased manner, but also the ability to connect how these findings relate to our society as a whole. It directly impacts student preparedness for both young scientists who want to go on to careers as researchers, physicians, and educators, but also for non-STEM majors, for whom their few natural science gen eds may be their only exposure to critically evaluating scientific statements and tying that to what they learned in their social science and humanities courses. It directly feeds into our scientific literacy crisis. Besides the freedom to teach what young professors decide is the most accurate and up-to-date data, we are also restricted from discussing in the classroom the injustices committed in the name of scientific progress against minority groups, so students aren't given the ability to fully grasp the sacrifices made in the name of progress, and they can't be given the chance to know not to repeat these incidents. It effectively erases these injustices from the public memory. I have stuck with medicine because I want to improve biomedical education and end the separation of science and humanities, because neither of these disciplines exist in a vacuum, and having a solid standing in both is what leads to empathetic and well-rounded scientists and physicians, as well as accurate, unbiased science that considers fully its social and ethical impacts. I am deeply concerned for future doctors who will continue their education not understanding the biological basis of identity or the social determinants of healthcare disparities. I am concerned for anyone who will not know how to critically look at science and see how it can be used to further a racist or ableist or sexist or homophobic agenda. These make for medical professionals who will only further the narrow-minded agenda of a government and a board of governors, and not work for the good of the people they are sworn to serve. Lastly, it is insulting to insinuate that both students and educators who are adults with otherwise complete independence and expertise cannot make these decisions for themselves. It only continues to sow distrust in science, which has real-world consequences for global health. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. Now you will hear from Tessa Barber, Tessa is a doctoral student in politics and international affairs at the University of South Florida, and she is also the co-president of USF Graduate Assistants United.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for providing the space to speak on these critical issues. As Adele introduced, my name is Tessa Barber. I'm a doctoral student at the University of South Florida, studying American politics and international relations. To begin, I implore you all to think back to when you started college, to think about who you were as a person and how you viewed the world. Think about the classes that you took, or rather, the classes that you were required to take to satisfy general education requirements. I know that when I started college, I hemmed and hawed when choosing general education courses. I bet many of you can empathize. I was a freshman biology major. Why would I ever need to take an English class, let alone a political science class or an anthropology class? But despite my skepticism, it was those classes, the ones outside my intended discipline, that I was only able to take because of general education requirements that changed my life. How could I predict that cultural anthropology would teach me how to think critically and help me learn to be curious about the world? Who would have thought that the literature of the plague and women in literature would help me fall back in love with learning and give me the courage to take charge of my own future? How could I have known that politics and the citizen would inspire me to change the world? These classes that were instrumental in forming who I am today, in shaping my interests and career aspirations, and in preparing me to thrive after graduation in a doctoral program at an R1 university, would now be outlawed from the general education curriculum based on the Board of Governors' new censorial curriculum requirements. Today, my students would be deprived of the same life-changing inspiration that these classes gave me. As a graduate assistant, when I look out across a classroom of undergraduate students, I'm scared for the future that lays ahead of them, a future held back by partisan interference in their education. I'm scared that they won't be well prepared to enter the workforce when they graduate, if they're even able to graduate on time without adequate access to diverse general education courses. I'm scared that they won't be able to develop their personhood, that they won't be free to speak their minds or freely exchange ideas with their peers. I'm scared that they won't be free to learn. Florida's colleges and universities claim to serve the people of Florida, the nation, and the world by fostering free intellectual inquiry and positively shaping the future for all students. By restricting the ability of students and faculty to freely partake in an intellectual marketplace of ideas on college and university campuses, the Board of Governors is stamping out the light of intellectual inquiry and suffocating freedom in the state of Florida. The integrity of our education system and the health of our democracy depend on the freedom to learn unencumbered by partisan agendas. We must stand together and fight these attacks on our academic freedom, not just for ourselves, but for our students, for our democracy, and for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. You will now be hearing from Dr. Robert Casanello, Associate Professor of History at the University of Central Florida and UFF First Vice President. Take it away, Robert.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm here with my colleagues to demand that we and you all voice to our lawmakers that they keep their hands off our curriculum. In the history of Florida in the 20th century, when the legislature tried to interfere with the curriculum, it never produced good outcomes. We have examples in the 1920s when the legislature tried to prohibit the teaching of evolution, some literature, sociology, and anthropology, because they were getting pressure from religious conservatives in the state. Luckily, no laws were passed that did interfere with the curriculum, but the state came very close to that happening. And in the 1950s and 60s, really up through the 1980s, lawmakers interfered with the curriculum in the name of the Cold War to prohibit concepts such as socialism and communism and things like this to be freely taught, as well as introducing notions of American patriotism and things like this. All of this interfered in the classroom. All of this was done at the behest of lawmakers. And now lawmakers tell the press and voters that the reason they're being so heavy-handed with curriculum is because of so-called indoctrination. They must be called out for this lie. And those of you in the media, you need to make lawmakers responsible for this lie. You need to confront them on this. They tell us that classes have to be removed from the curriculum that focus on race, gender, and sexuality. But at the same time, they want courses and lessons on the centrality of Western civilization, free market libertarianism, and patriotic histories of this country infused into the general curriculum and life on our campuses. The real agents of indoctrination in Florida classrooms are located in Tallahassee, in the legislature, in the governor's mansion, and on the board of trustees of New College and now the University of West Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Janiah Jones, Professor of Pre-Collegiate Studies at Florida State College of Jacksonville.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kadimi. I chose to pursue a career in education to engage students in critical thinking, adaptability, and global competence, skills that are essential for professional success and societal contribution. Restrictions on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the curricula of our community colleges, and even in our universities, undermine this mission by narrowing students' understanding of the world and their role in it. We as educators want to ensure our students are adequately equipped to become and remain gainfully employed in our global economy. Restricting curricula deprives students of the cultural competencies and soft skills that are increasingly demanded in diverse workplaces and that are crucial for informed civic engagement. Liberal arts education thrives on diverse perspectives that challenge assumptions and broaden worldviews. Diversity, equity, and inclusion principles expose our students to diverse histories, cultures, and experiences that enhance their ability to analyze, empathize, and innovate. Now, Dr. Kadimi, I am not originally from here. I deliberately moved here to pursue higher education. And as someone who received an exceptional liberal arts education in the state of Florida, I've continually and freely nourished a love of and appreciation for others, their lands, and their cultures. I was able to take numerous non-math classes that changed who I am and how I see myself as part of this world. I'm currently learning a fourth language and plan to continue my ongoing travel abroad. My hope is that my students, no, all students in the state of Florida, learn to love and appreciate the vibrant, diverse world in which we all live. And this can only happen if our adult learners are free to determine which classes best fit their career goals and will best prepare them to be citizens who can collaborate across cultural, racial, and socioeconomic divides in our connected global society. If we continue down our current path of restricting access to diverse learning and disciplines, we will soon find it to be an error that will prove detrimental to this great state, our workforce, and our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janiah. Now we will hear from Dr. SEI March Dallas, Associate Professor of Finance at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University.
Thank you, Dr. Kadimi. I am a proud recipient of 3 higher education degrees from the Florida State University system. I have received a great education, and I'm dedicated to my students having a similar opportunity. I chose to stay in Florida as a professor to facilitate students on their academic journeys as I understand the importance and value of a good education. Politics has no place in shaping the academic journey of our students. A university is a melting pot where innovation thrives and diversity lives. Being a hub for innovation directly impacts society at large. Our politicians claim to want increased innovation and economic impact, but these changes to the core curriculum and gen ed courses fly directly in the face of that. Embracing our differences allows us to be able to move the needle forward as we focus on economic changes and impacts. Florida is a free state where students should be free to learn and professors should be free to do their scholarship and facilitate their students' learning without censorship. Limitations to core curriculum and general education requirements significantly impact on our business community's innovative capacity and future workforce development. When we restrict or dilute these foundational courses, we limit students' exposure to diverse thinking patterns, problem-solving approaches, and cross-disciplinary insights that drive innovation in today's complex market environment. These limitations limit possibilities and thus limit our future. Business majors particularly benefit from a robust core curriculum that includes humanities, sciences, and arts. These courses develop critical thinking, cultural awareness, and communication skills essential for modern business leadership. These courses enhance logical reasoning and ethical decision-making while providing contextual understanding of human behavior and market dynamics. They also foster analytical thinking and data interpretation abilities, crucial for evidence-based business decisions. I am so concerned that our future business leaders will miss out on key components that have been shown to shape the perspectives and actions in the modern business world. The market increasingly demands professionals who can integrate diverse perspectives and adapt to rapid technological and social changes. Companies actively seek employees with interdisciplinary backgrounds, recognizing that innovation often emerges at the intersection of different fields. Restricting general education requirements potentially narrows this intellectual foundation, reducing graduates' adaptability and their creative problem-solving capabilities. Moreover, changes to core curriculum requirements can constrain academic freedom that limit faculty's ability to develop innovative courses and students' opportunities to explore diverse subjects. This standardization risks creating a workforce trained in specific skills, but lacking the broader intellectual framework necessary for long-term career adaptation and innovation leadership. Our business community needs graduates who can think beyond conventional boundaries and connect ideas across disciplines to drive future economic growth and market innovation. The relationship between academic breadth and market innovation is well documented. Regions with strong liberal arts traditions often show higher rates of entrepreneurship and patent development. By maintaining comprehensive general education requirements, we invest in our future innovation ecosystem, ensuring our graduates can effectively navigate and lead in an increasingly complex global business environment. We need to do the best for our students, our professors, our communities, our state, and society on a whole. We need to not limit our possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You will now hear from Professor Elizabeth Keyrer, a 28-year counseling faculty in the Florida college system.
Thank you, Dr. Gadimi. I am fortunate to have a non-instructional perspective of students. I am a counselor and have served in this capacity for nearly 30 years. I have taught in the classroom as an adjunct for a number of years, though my primary career has always been working with students in an individual capacity by appointment, walk-in, or in an emergency. I work with students who are experiencing some type of problem that is hindering or making their education experience less than pleasant. It may be an academic, financial, personal, family, an institutional, or social issue. So, why is my opinion important? One who is not educated in the disciplines that have been considered as politically charged or possibly indoctrination-like. One who is not lecturing students on a daily basis, year after year, on the two poetic voices of Paul Laurence Dunbar, the standard English dialect and the expressive dialect of the turn-of-the-century Black community. I also don't lecture on French sociologist Durkheim's concept of social facts that influence an individual's behavior. Why is my voice important? Because I get the opportunity to build an outside of classroom relationship with students and know what causes them stress, anxiety, and excitement. Students have the absolute right to learn in an environment that prepares them to enter the job market and this global society that continues to evolve. In the late 70s, early 80s, the Gordon Rule was mandated to ensure that students would develop analytical and communication skills. Students must complete 2 years of the same foreign language to earn a bachelor's degree. Students must demonstrate computer literacy to earn the 2-year degree. I suppose it's the same if the student starts at a 4-year institution. The most recent addition to the curriculum that impacts me is civics literacy, the addition of American history or American government because students lacked the knowledge regarding government, democracy, and civic engagement. Florida thought it not robbery for students to be able to effectively communicate, have familiarity with foreign languages, dabble in computer literacy, and have an understanding of government and democracy, because not only is this world expanding, it is getting smaller. Why? Why, with statutes for communication, foreign languages, computer literacy, government and democracy, and I'm sure there are more, why would there be a statute to remove courses that give students exposure to this diverse, historic nation and world? We are doing our students a disservice by denying them the benefit of learning about European colonization and the transatlantic slave trade in Latin American history. They are also missing gaining insight on contemporary issues like India's IT revolution and Japan's pop culture influence in Asian humanities courses. We have the finest education system in the world. Our institutions have a plethora of international students as proof. Let's continue to produce the finest, well-educated, knowledgeable, cultured, well-read, global citizens that we've been producing. Thank you for listening to the counselor.
Thank you for sharing your insights with us, Elizabeth. Now you'll be hearing from parent and public school advocate Marie Claire Lehman.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I am a parent and a K-12 public school advocate. I have 3 kids, one who graduated from UF last year, one in the 12th grade, and one in the 10th grade. I have seen the detrimental impacts of school grades, high-stakes testing, and the school choice movement on my children's K-12 public schools. Their professionally trained teachers have had their autonomy in the classroom compromised, their salaries stifled, their judgment questioned, and their roles as educators undermined, leading inevitably, if not by design, to the attrition we see in the profession. I worry that we might be seeing the same trend take hold in our Florida colleges and universities. As my 12th grader prepares to choose a college for next year, I hope he can expect an intellectually stimulating experience. College is a time for exploration, identity formation, and ideally, the exchange of ideas with peers and professors from a wide range of life experience and political backgrounds. We expect our kids to feel free to express their opinions and, of course, learn to receive the opinions of others with an open mind. If their professors are not granted that same freedom, the flow of ideas is stunted and the opportunity we hope college will afford our kids is eroded. And indeed, what I am hearing, like we have heard from the students here today, is that their professors have to censor themselves, tiptoe around crucial issues, and that they feel more and more restricted in their ability to give the students the thorough answers they deserve, and more reluctant to facilitate free-flowing discussions about challenging issues which students deeply need at this point in their lives. I'm concerned that the growing tendency to undermine the roles and responsibilities of university professors will diminish the learning and development opportunities of our youth. And when it comes to revising the list of courses that will satisfy general education requirements, I would just like to add that as a parent, I would expect that it be left to expert educators, those who best understand the curricular needs of the students without interference by legislators. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie Claire. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you NEA President Becky Pringle. President Pringle is a fierce social justice warrior, defender of educator rights, an unrelenting advocate for all students and communities of color, and a valued and respected voice in the education arena. A middle school science teacher with more than 3 decades of classroom experience, Becky is singularly focused on using her intellect, passion, and purpose to unite the members of the largest labor union in the nation and using that collective power to fulfill the promise of public education. Thank you for being with us, President Pringle.
Thank you. And it is so good to be with you this morning as I listen to the students and the activists, the parents, the counselor, all of those voices, including yours, UFF, are so critical in this season. You know, we are all saying moment, but we know it's more than a moment, and you've been living in more than a moment. So I need to just start by expressing what's called a radical gratitude. Thank you for being unafraid, remaining undaunted, for being steadfastly unapologetic. Thank you for being unwilling to be silent in the face of injustice. Thank you for standing up time and time again to fight for our students, for our faculty and staff, for your public education colleagues, our communities, this nation, and for democracy. And UFF, I need you to know, and I think you do, you're not fighting alone. You have standing with you the power, the passion, and the purpose of the FEA and the AFT, and of course, the 3 million members of the NEA standing together with you, and we always will. Together, we will continue to protect our students' ability to question and to imagine, to be curious about their world and all of its diversity, to do all the things that we as educators know will actually build their critical thinking skills, not diminish them. Together, we will fight for academic freedom as higher educators to teach and to study in a way that reflects your professional authority and integrity. Together, we will demand that your rigorous research continues and that results remain uncensored. And together, we will continue to remind this nation of its responsibility to ensure that every student, everyone, has the ability to learn the true history of this nation, both the triumphant and the tragic, and its connection to what's happening right now. We will stand together in these righteous fights, something you, the members and leaders of UFF, have done so well for quite a few years now, right? But you haven't just stood up. You have also grown your power. I am so proud that today your membership is larger than it was before your governor began his attacks on all of us. Since this time last year, your membership has grown what? 280 members. UFF, you are phenomenal, and you understand that driving every battle must be organizing. Organizing for members, organizing for leadership, organizing for power. And I know you will continue to grow, and I know you will use those numbers to build your strength so that when you speak up, they must listen. You will educate your friends and your family, your allies to join their voices and their influence with yours. So your beautiful diversity of voices can't be denied. Dr. King, whose birthday we commemorated on the same day as the inauguration this year. For some of us, it was a struggle to acknowledge that, but as it turns out, it was perfect that we heard Dr. King's voice calling to us last Monday. Every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated people. You are those people, UFF, and our unions were built for this moment. Because of your tireless exertions, no one governor nor one presidential election will erase this truth. Our vision and our values for education have not changed. For as long as it takes, we will continue to share the dream and fight for a public education and a system of higher education that provides every student with what they need and what they deserve, that every system of higher education has the resources and supports that are required to respect our faculty and staff and prepare every student. Thank you, UFF, for your sacrifice, for your passionate concern, for your continued struggle. Thank you for understanding that in this season of suffering, you must exert your professional responsibility and your moral obligation to do what you know is right. I know you will. Onward, UFF. Onward.
Thank you so much, President Pringle. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you all President Randy Weingarten of the American Federation of Teachers. President Weingarten is president of the 1.8 million member AFT, which represents teachers, paraprofessionals, and school-related personnel, higher education, faculty and staff, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, local, state, and federal government employees, and early childhood educators. Prior to her election as AFT president in 2008, President Weingarten served for 11 years as president of the United Federation of Teachers, AFT Local 2, representing approximately 200,000 educators in the New York City public school system, as well as home child care providers and other workers in health, law, and education. President Weingarten has led the AFT's efforts to strengthen public education for all children and to address the crisis in the teaching profession caused by deep disinvestment and the deprofessionalization of teaching. Thank you again for being with us, President Weingarten.
It's my honor to be with you, and it's been my honor to listen to so many people who have talked so eloquently about the role of the university, the role of general ed courses, what will be lost if these kind of encroachments on academic freedom and on divestment continue to happen, and how Ron DeSantis has been kind of exhibit A for what Donald Trump is doing the last week and is about to do. And I want to, instead of repeating the eloquence of everyone, I want to take a step back and say, as several of your speakers have already done, this is not new. This is something that happens when the pace of change, when the anger in the country, when a sense of uncertainty is so great that you have in this instance, two salesmen who go to great lengths to churn up that anger against the people who are trying to create opportunity. And that is what is happening right now in the United States. And you are the bulwark against that. And so today, part of today is a process of explaining to the country, explaining to people, having a coalition that includes parents and education advocates, not just teachers, that what we're doing is good, is actually good for kids, good for families, and good for the country. What we're doing in expanding knowledge is actually the most patriotic thing one can do. And that's why, as my colleague Becky Pringle said, in using the great civil rights leaders and lexicon, we must continue to do that. Now, I know you're about to have a call to action by our UFF president, but this is what I would urge us to do. One, we're not backing down. The community that you have created within the labor movement is a way of creating that agency and not and ensuring that the concept of not backing down is matched with people who are in community together. Because we now know that Ron DeSantis's policies are unpopular. It's been clear over and over again. But what we haven't done, and this will be the only thing I probably disagree with one of the speakers about, what we haven't done is we haven't shown the public in each of the communities in which the great education system of Florida operates, that there is another way, there is a better way. Let us elect people who actually enable us to create this great moment of opportunity, of knowledge. In the face of uncertainty, knowledge can help create agency. In the face of fear, knowledge and solidarity can help create hope, because it creates another way of fighting. It creates a way of working people and parents and families getting together and saying, no, we're not going to do this. And we're going to elect people who do not allow this to happen. I feel a turn in Florida in terms of people saying, don't like this. However, if we don't create the relationships and the community, which is what the call to action is about, to show not only is there a better way, but we can elect people who enable the better way. We can elect people who actually create funding for us to do this work. Elect people who say, no, we're not going to restrict knowledge, we're going to expand it. So there's critical thinking. There's the way in which everyone has a shot and opportunity. Everyone has a path for a better life. That's who we are as a labor union. That's who we are as educators. That's who all of you are. So in this race between hope and fear, in this race between aspiration and anger, I know we are in the right place. But to be on the path of change, we have to create this kind of solidarity and growing power by working with people to elect people to change things. We're there with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Weingarten again. And now I'm going to throw it back to our UFF president, President Theresa M. Hodge, for our closeout.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who spoke out this morning. Thank you for sharing your experience, your concerns, and your hopes for our future. You've given testimony on just how these proposed changes, as well as the sum of the legislative attacks on higher education, impact not just individual students and educators, but all of us, our entire community. It is evident that these proposed cuts are harmful, arbitrary, and completely unnecessary. It's easy to rest in despair, considering the frequency and scope of these attacks against higher education. But remember that today you also witnessed collective action. You heard a little bit about hope. You heard a little bit of a plan for our future. You were assured that when we come together and speak out together, we can be heard and we can change things. We can right the wrongs. So take with you today the resolve of this group, the refusal to be quiet and accept defeat. It's going to take a lot more than one meeting. So I encourage you to continue speaking out and spreading the word. Let others know what's going on here and encourage them to contact their representatives and community leaders. After all, they are answerable to us. And it is in that vein that I ask each of you to send a letter today to the Board of Governors. Their meeting is scheduled for this Thursday, so time is of the essence. Once you've sent your letter, please share the link on your social media platforms and in any other way that you can. The more letters the Board of Governors receives, the more likely they will listen to us and perhaps even do the right thing. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's continue to stand up. Let's continue to speak out, and let's continue to fight for what's right. I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, President Hodge, and thank you again to all of our passionate speakers. Thank you for being here with us this Monday morning. And if anyone would like to get in touch with us, especially members of the press, you can email us at uffpress@floridaea.org. We are happy to follow up with you. We thank you for your time and attention and have a wonderful week. Thank you.